Now in today's video, we're going to be taking a look at my favourite wildcard drafts ahead of game week 9. I've got 3 prepared, all very, very different. So let's dive into today's video. Now, of course, before we dive into today's video, if you do enjoy any of the content that you see on the channel, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. We don't have a subscriber goal at the moment. We absolutely smashed through 20k over the weekend, so thank you very much for your continued support on the channel. Of course, if you want to keep this journey going, let's see where we can get by the end of the season. Let's say 25k. That would be absolutely immense. So make sure you are hitting that subscribe button, liking the video if you do enjoy it, and of course, if you've got any kind of comments or questions about your team, get them in the comments, and me and other people within the community will try and help you answer them. Let's run through then my first wildcard team that I would be looking to build. It's very, very good at the back. It's very, very strong. We've gone for that double up in terms of the Arsenal defence with Gabriel and Raya. If we look at the 11ify numbers over the next few weeks, of course, if you want to go and check out 11ify's website, there will be a link in the description as always. But as you can see here, the projected numbers for Arsenal and Chelsea, of course, we've got Chalobah in there, are looking extremely good over the next few weeks, especially Arsenal's. Theirs continues all the way up until game week 19. If you look at the Solio and Rob T data as well, it just continues to look absolutely exceptional. Chelsea as well over the next few weeks, they've got some really good fixtures. Chalobah is a guy that can hit defensive contributions, also a little bit of a menace from set plays as well. So for me, does feel like a really, really smart and, very easy player to invest in to kind of get, some of the good fixtures that Chelsea have got coming up over the next few weeks. We've also got Marco Senesi in there. The guy is just a DEFCON beast. Hit it again yesterday. That means he's only missed it once in the opening 8 game weeks. It is just going to be one of those factors that is just going to keep adding up. I think that's now, 14 points from defensive contributions already this season. It's an absolute joke from Marco Senesi. They've still got some good fixtures as well. 38% chance of a clean sheet in game week 9. A little bit of a drop off in game week 10 with a difficult fixture against City. But then they've got Villa, who are still pretty poor in my eyes. And then some good fixtures as well, heading into game week 12 and 13. So for Senesi, for the DEFCON value alone, just feels like a really, really good pickup. Let's then head into to our other defenders on the bench. We've got Rodon, just a 4 million guy. He's just probably going to be sat third sub most weeks. Munoz feels like he could be one of the defenders that does, of course, break those defensive contribution kind of monsters that we've currently got within the side. His attacking returns have looked very good. Palace's fixtures after this week as well, if we go back to the 11ify numbers, look actually pretty decent. As you can see, game week 9, not the most ideal with a 14% chance. However, 29, 25, 30 and 27, there are some great numbers there. He is one of those players. Already 4 attacking returns for him so far this season. Feels like he could be maybe one of them that does, of course, break the mold and goes against those DEFCON beasts that we all currently own within our teams. Let's head into the midfield then. I think that's a pretty template midfield, to be honest. Saka looks like the best Arsenal attacker to go for. Gyökeres is nowhere near kind of the running pace. Saka and Arsenal, they've got some great fixtures coming up. The threat that they have from set pieces and some of Saka's deliveries yesterday were scrumptious. So I really, really want him and feel he could be an excellent value player. Managed to hit bonus yesterday and defensive contributions, all while getting 0 attacking returns. I think shows how good a performance he had in yesterday's game, despite, of course, not getting any attacking returns. And Dai, very similar kind of mold where he's just got multiple avenues to points. He's got the penalties. He's got, of course, those defensive contributions, which he absolutely smashed through, getting them in the first half against Manchester City, and does have the open play threat as well. There are some good fixtures coming up for Everton as well after this Spurs game, but the Spurs game as well does feel very, very attackable. I think as well, Palace, once you get Arsenal out of the way, again, it's just a really nice run of teams that don't really have a lot kind of going for them and kind of some of the worst sides for expected goals conceded. Granit Xhaka is just an absolute beast, by the way, for defensive contributions. He, for me, is the standout pick if you're looking for a cheap midfielder on a wildcard, or, of course, if you are looking at transfers this week to obviously someone downgrade. He just continually hits DEFCON. Again, has multiple avenues to points with set piece share as well. So why would you not invest into that? Let's take a look then at our forwards and finish up this first wildcard team. We've got Walter Marder, João Pedro and Erling Haaland. He's, of course, going to take the armband for the next few weeks. If we again bring up those 11-a-fine numbers, we are seeing City with just continually great fixtures over that period, and the form that Haaland is in right now just does feel like an absolute joke with some of those projected numbers. We're seeing Saka potentially could rival him as well in game week 10, 11 and 12 for captaincy with some great projected goal numbers. And the reason they have stuck João Pedro in here, despite obviously 4 blanks in a row now, is the game week 9 projected numbers. As you can see here, they are absolutely ridiculous, and if it doesn't quite work out, that is going to be the period as well where we see Crystal Palace go from 0.83 projected goals here all the way up to some absolutely stellar numbers. And I think that's where a lot of people will, of course, look to invest into Mateta off the back of his, you know, hat trick. But before that, he has been a guy who has been getting lots of big chances, so it's not like it's just a flash in the pan one-off performance. His minutes seem decent, 90 minutes kind of, you know, being hit pretty much most weeks. And penalty share, yes please, sign me up for that. Our other forward that we have selected is going to be Wildcard, who is in a very, very rich vein of form right now. 4 goals within the Premier League, had a good international break as well for Germany, picking up a few goals over that. The next few fixtures, again, some of the worst sides for XG conceded: West Ham, Brentford. Really attackable fixtures. I'd say their most difficult fixture is going to be game week 12, but it does feel like Wildcard could be very much a shorter term punt, with Visser looking likely to be back for the next international break. But I think given the form that he's in, and given, you know, the way that he's playing, and the fact that he continues to just pick up goals, probably for me suggests that he is going to be a decent little pickup on a wildcard for a few weeks. You can assess heading into that Manchester City fixture, see if him and Newcastle are still doing the business, see if his minutes continue to be good, and see what situation Johan Visser is. And after that point, if it's not quite delivering, then of course you could drop him down to a very, very cheap forward and upgrade some of those other positions on the bench. Or of course maybe look at a Bowen. Maybe at that point João Pedro is still doing well, so Mateta might be the move that you have to make for Wildcard. So I do think this draft that we built, the first one, gives you lots of variety, lots of good options. It kind of gets you into a lot of different teams as well, with some great fixtures coming up over the next few weeks, and gets you into some of the best players as well for captaincy, as we identified with Haaland and Saka over the next few weeks. Let me know what you think of Wildcard Draft 1. Now let's move into the second draft that we're going to cover in today's video. Okay, let's take a look then at my second wildcard team. This one's a little bit different. Rather than, of course, going for Raya in goal, we have selected Pope, who, of course, does come in a little bit cheaper. And we have selected Jurrien Timber. So you're still getting a slice of that Arsenal defence. And Jurrien Timber has been very, very good with the attacking returns. Of course, Senesi and Gabriel remain within the defence. Very, very solid rocks. And Chris Richards comes in as well, who feels like excellent value for, of course, the injured Joachim Andersen, if you're thinking about potentially looking at a replacement. Not the most ideal fixture in game week 9, but beyond that, just does feel like a great option for me at 4.5 million. A guy who hit defensive contributions yet again, and does seem like just the cheap and easy way into that Palace defence. I think at some point Gahey will be dropped if this kind of transfer rumour speculation does continue to obviously escalate, and by January he might be a player that, of course, will be kind of, you know, out of the squad, maybe moving squads. Lacroix as well at 5.1. Does feel a little bit steep when you've got Richards at 4.5, who's doing something very, very similar as well. Where there are, of course, some changes within this side, we've gone with Paqueta, we've gone with Bruno Fernandes. Now, West Ham's fixtures over the next few aren't too bad, definitely investable. And for 5.9, I don't really mind Paqueta. A penalty taker, they've got Leeds who look like they could be struggling a little bit, and it could be a massive relegation kind of, you know, 6-pointer for both sides at the moment. So I don't mind Paqueta as a pickup. Again, one of those players that does have multiple avenues to points, with some defensive contributions being hit over the opening couple game weeks, penalty appeal, and of course that open play threat as well. Now, Bruno Fernandes, I'm probably going to get pelters for. I am filming this before the Liverpool game has actually kicked off, so yeah, if Bruno gets injured, ignore this please completely, or if he misses a penalty again, yeah, then I'm done and I'm never ever speaking about Bruno Fernandes. But the United fixtures are really, like, genuinely unbelievable now they've got that Liverpool game out the way. They are just so good all the way up until game week 22. I think the hardest game across that period is maybe facing like a Bournemouth and a Spurs during that time period. Like, there's just a lot of winnable games and a lot of games where I can see Manchester United scoring goals. Bruno as well has been one of the biggest underperformers in terms of underlying data so far this season. Now, people might argue that, yes, that is going to be because of the 2 missed penalties, but I also think put some narrative into that. If he scores both of those penalties and hits 1 extra defensive contribution in the games where he hit 11, we would be looking at a guy who would actually be sat currently 2nd highest scoring midfielder within the game. So I think the narrative around Bruno, it can very easily change, of course, on outcome. It seems very outcome-based around Bruno Fernandes. Now, he is playing as a DM, and I understand that that is a little bit frustrating for that 9 million price tag. I get it. But for a guy that is going to just play 90 minutes, no European football, is still on penalties in my opinion, very unfortunate not to have come away with an open attacking return either so far in the games. I do just think with those great fixtures, he is still going to be a pretty good asset and is going to probably tick along very, very nicely over that period. Where the big changes come, though, is going to be within the striker positions. We've completely ditched João Pedro. I know Chelsea have got some good fixtures, and that is probably the oversight of this kind of draft, in my opinion. I think if Enzo was fit, you could, of course, replace Ndiaye and put Enzo in there. That would be a very, very smart move. But we've gone for Krupik Jr. Let's talk through him first. The 4.5 million guy who managed to brag himself a brace against Crystal Palace. Looks like Evan Nielsen is going to be missing game week 9. So, of course, we can play him against Forest, who at the moment look all over the shop. They're probably not going to have a new manager in place during that time period and not going to be able to, even if they do get one, instill their values and beliefs on the side. So I think it's still going to be a great fixture. Like I spoke about with Senesi and, of course, Semenyo, once you get past that Manchester City fixture, the other ones look really, really good as well and definitely investable fixtures. I don't think he's all of a sudden going to be the best asset in the game, but for a guy that is probably going to see decent minutes while Evan Nielsen's out, and even when he is back, probably going to be rivaling for a place now because of that good performance, is definitely good value to be picking up on a wildcard at 4.5 million in my personal opinion. The other striker who we do have sat on the bench who you could very easily play, I know it's not the most ideal fixture, is going to be Jean-Philippe Mateta. Game week 9, not the ideal week. Game week 10, though, they do, like I said, play some of the worst sides for expected goals conceded. 3.46 XG picked up just alone and still managed to underperform on a hat-trick, by the way, which is absolutely ridiculous. Missed 2 other big chances within the game. 7.7 for the season. The guy is just absolutely hoovering up opportunities right now. He actually took the majority of them yesterday, but still managed to, like I said, unbelievably unperform on a hat-trick, which is very much unheard of. So I think it shows that he's getting the right chances. He's going to create plenty of goals for himself over the next few weeks. And like I said, I do think the ideal investment point is going to be game week 10, but if you've got the wildcard active in game week 9, it makes sense to, of course, just lean into it and buy him early for this game week. So again, this team I do think has a lot of pros that do go with it. I would probably say one of the biggest cons is no Chelsea, but something that you could very easily do to rectify that would be maybe take out Bruno Fernandes and Ndiaye or Paqueta, slot in maybe like a Caicedo, an Enzo, or potentially, you know, move some of the defenders around or maybe look at a Sanchez in goal. But overall for me, it does feel like a very balanced and harmonious side, and something that if I ended up on a wild card with, wouldn't feel too bad about either. Okay, let's talk through then the final wildcard team that I have built for game week 9. Again, this one is completely different to all the other ones we've seen. There's obviously, you know, a few standout players in there that have kind of been across all the drafts, so we're not going to talk about those again. But one man we are going to talk about is Mohamed Salah. Now, I am filming this, like I said, before the Liverpool game has taken place, so it's obviously very hard to comment on what that performance will look like. However, if him, Isak, Ekitike, Gakpo, any of these guys go off, I do think a lot of people on wildcard and on transfers are probably going to be looking at some Liverpool assets for very, very good reasons. If you look at the 11-5 projected goal numbers over the next few weeks, Liverpool are really looking like a standout option over that time period. 9, 10, 12... they're all beating Haaland there. 13 is very close between the two of them, but if you look at those other weeks, 9, 10, and 12, there's captaincy potential there, and that is why I think a lot of people, if Salah really pops off, you could maybe have an advantage on if you go for the wild card, or of course if you've got enough transfers to go and bring him in. The team that we have built, though, does feel a little bit lopsided. Like, I definitely think you need to have the bench boost out of the way, because most weeks you're either probably going to be playing one of Kuprig, Xhaka, Mukalele, Rondon, kind of, you know, rotating around those cheaper guys, which doesn't feel like the most ideal situation. Like, that is probably one of the main downsides. You also don't have Bukayo Saka within this team as well, which does feel like a little bit of a blow. So there is, of course, going to be pros and cons to the Salah Haaland. I think, you know, you could theoretically have the best two players within the game. You could also be sat in a position where, you know, you're having to eat up Saka. You're not got Bruno. You know, there's going to be sacrifices you're going to have to make to, of course, be able to have those two established guys within the side. Now, something you could do is maybe look a way to obviously not have the double Arsenal defence. But I think just given their strong defensive numbers that are coming up and how good they've been so far this season, that for me just feels like a non-negotiable that I would 100% want to have heading into the future game weeks coming up. I don't mind playing Xhaka every single week though, because like I said, he does frequently hit DEFCONs. He's got that, you know, set piece threat as well. So most weeks you probably will be coming away with like a 3 to 5 pointer from him. For 5 million, you're not really complaining. And if it does allow you to bring in, say for example, a Salah or an Alexander Isak, then you don't mind that too much with this side. Now, something you could do and free up, of course, the necessary funds to do that would be, of course, if you dropped Mohamed Salah down, probably to a you know, a cheaper player. Like let's say for example, you drop Salah down, you go to a Saka, then you upgrade João Pedro to maybe like an Isak, if that was the route, and maybe drop obviously a little bit of money out of Timber and Gabriel, maybe even drop like Saar down to like a king or Ndai down to a king. That would be a way that you would be able to get obviously Isak and Saka in, of course, if he does deliver in today's kickoff. But that one, like I said, the last draft is all dependent on how the Liverpool game looks today and what obviously their players do off the back of that. Let me know which wildcard draft was your favourite in the comments section. Of course, if you've got any questions about your team heading into game week 9 as well, get them in the comments, as I'll try to answer as many as I possibly can. But thank you for watching today, ladies and gentlemen, and good luck in game week 9.